For more than 2 decades, we've been educating our listeners about financial topics that are most important to you. Do you have enough money to retire? How will you keep from running out of money? What's your plan for managing market risk? What about taxes, inflation, and healthcare? Each week, we talk with an advisor at Lucia Capital Group about these issues and more. This is Managing Your Financial Future.
All right, managing your financial future. Let's do it. I'm trying to decide if today's topic is about Social Security or is it about buckets, or is it potentially a combination of the two?
Of course it is.
Johnny Dean, your podcast host, and that other guy, Professor Rick Plum, certified financial planner, professional, CFPP, certified financial planner, professional, and accredited wealth management advisor, AWMA, and AAGG, which I just made up.
All around good guy.
All around good guy. There you go. So you know right where I'm going.
I picked up on that.
And you really did. So here's the thing. We were hosting, you and I, a couple of days ago, a kind of an advisor roundup, which we do from time to time. You were really hosting, but I was kind of helping MC. And there was a question or a scenario brought up about delaying Social Security benefits, potentially. How do you wait until, say, age 70 to get the highest possible check, while at the same time not necessarily, running out of money if you want to retire at, say, at age 62, 63, and use your own money between that age and age 70. So I found this article in, I guess it's Kiplinger, and a couple of things in here. I know they have an idea in here that I know you like, at least for some people. But I'm going to start off with this quote, and we're going to go from here. Okay, so in this particular article, which is entitled, by the way, How Annuities Can Help You Retire Early and Delay Social Security, which I guess is kind of the topic of this. I don't like to say that everybody should do this because they shouldn't, but let's get into this. The quote here is, whoever this person was they were interviewing said, "For most Americans, it is financially sensible to delay claiming Social Security until age 70. As this maximizes the retirement payments that they receive for the rest of their lives. Nonetheless, most people do not do this." Okay. Now, Professor Plum, I mean, I'm sure you can make just about any scenario work given circumstances. I mean, you would never say no, and you would never say never, and always, never say always. But I am of the opinion that you cannot go wrong by taking your Social Security early. I happen to disagree with that particular statement.
But you disagree with which statement? Taking it early? You
No,
can't go wrong taking it early? That's your statement.
My statement is you can't go wrong taking it early. I disagree that, yes, your checks are bigger if you wait until age 70.
Define wrong.
Well, I mean, wrong would be, okay, so wrong, it's financially sensible to delay claiming Social Security until age 70. Well, you don't know that. You don't know that until you're age 90. And if you don't live, or all right, maybe age 85. But if you don't live that long, then you made the wrong decision.
Or if your spouse can do it and continue receiving it longer than what your to age 85 would have been. So there are reasons to potentially delay taking Social Security until age 70. Should most people delay it? I'm not going to say that because it's a very personal decision. And it is one of the first decisions in the planning process that we have to deal with, because without understanding where our cash flow is coming from, it's pensions, Social Security, how do we know how much the portfolio has to supplement to meet what our needs are? So we need to do a good analysis of when to take Social Security, when not to take Social Security, before we can decide how much money we put into the buckets. So this is a discussion on Social Security, and it is a discussion on buckets, and because the whole world revolves around buckets, and right. And Social Security for a lot of people, for people retiring today, Social Security is a big issue for most people. Very few people can say, "Oh, I don't need it." They're not. What's the guy that ran against Bush back in 88?
88? Dukakis?
No, the guy with the ears, the independent, Anyway.
Ross Perot.
Ross Perot, yeah. He ran on an idea that rich people should not take their Social Security. And he said he wasn't going to take his because he was a billionaire. He didn't need the insurance. But most people aren't in the position of saying, I don't want that. A lot of us have what we feel like is a vested interest in it because we've been paying FICA taxes for a couple of days now. And we've been paying quite a bit of it in some respects. So we feel that we're owed this money. And so, but how do we make the best use of it? And there's two sides to the equation. There is the purely financial side, and then there's the emotional side. The purely financial side, you're correct. We will not know whether it was a good idea to take that Social Security at age 62, 65, 67, or anywhere from 62 to 70. You can start any month you want if you're not working, until you reach age 84, 85, depending upon certain factors. So now you've made it to 87. Do you, and you've been receiving your Social Security for, 7 years or for, 15 years, whatever it is. It's a matter of, do you remember making the decision? And is it affecting your life at that point? I think that there's more to it than just that. In a vacuum, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking it as early as you can get it. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with waiting until 70, unless you tell me that you are of the mindset that you're not going to make it to age 88. And your spouse isn't going to make it that far either.
Well, yeah, when you have two spouses and they both have you have a spousal benefit. Let's say you have two spouses, both with Social Security benefits. There are scenarios where if financially it does make sense, especially if there's a big disparity between one spouse's benefit and the other spouse. Because we get into survivor issues, and it's nice to let the survivor benefit go on as long as possible. But just in general here, before we talk about how your bucket strategy at bucket one specifically could potentially help you to delay the benefits if you do indeed decide to wait. Talk for just a moment here, Professor, about making that decision. And I know 100 things go into that decision, of course. But can you just talk about what may make you want to take it early, or what may want?
Well, if you're a single individual and you truly believe you're going to live well into your 80s and beyond, 90s, and so, then I think that financially, it makes more sense to wait until 70, even though you're spending more of your portfolio in the early years. You can still do all the same things you wanted to do when you were taking the Social Security. You're just taking more of your portfolio early and then a lot less of your portfolio later. So it's all about time horizon for that single individual. It becomes much more complicated for the married couple where we have spousal benefits, because then it's a matter of, well, my benefit being the larger of the two is going to continue for as long as either one of us are alive, and my spouse's benefit being the smaller of the two is going to stop when the first of us stops, regardless. And so now it's a game of which one should we defer if we're going to defer one, and what I've decided in mind, I'm deferring mine until 70, and we'll take my spouse's as soon as she wants to take it. Probably when she turns 65 and wants to pay for Medicare, and so we don't. Just an odd thought. We're not there yet. But mine will be the one that continues for as long as either one of us is alive. And mine is significantly bigger than hers at this point. So it just makes sense for us, because I do think that one of us will live quite a long time. And that will also help the legacy that we leave for our heirs. Even though we might spend a little more money in the early years, it'll be more than made up for, as long as we live, in the later years, and leave a larger legacy to the kids, which is important as well. Leaving as big of a fixed income to my spouse if I die too soon is a big concern of mine, and leaving a legacy to my kids is a concern. And by waiting until 70 to do what we're taking the Social Security, for my Social Security, just makes sense for us.
So let's say you've decided then to wait till age 70 for one of you, and you just said, okay, so let's say you want to retire, and you need that bucket one. You need that income between age 62, 63, whenever you would have started taking it. Your portfolio has to make up for what Social Security would have provided.
Your bucket number one will be larger to be able to provide that higher distribution in the early years. But that also means your bucket number two will be a lot smaller, because it doesn't need to make up anywhere near as much of a distribution in the second block of years.
Because your Social Security.
Because my Social Security makes up a big chunk of what our need is, or would be at that time. So, but one of the things this article you were referring to talked about was also from an emotional standpoint, because there is a certain emotional satisfaction, a good feeling about having a guaranteed income, not just withdrawing money from the portfolio, but a guaranteed distribution that kind of looks and acts like Social Security in some respects, in that it's guaranteed by a very large backing body.
And you can't outlive it, even if you live to be.
The way this article was talking about a specific product that we haven't used in a number of decades, I'll say, because interest rates have made them impotent. They were useless. They were worse than sticking your money in the mattress, because you didn't even get your own money back during the period of time. But using these types of annuities, and it would be basically, so if I'm going to start at 62, retirement, but I'm going to defer my Social Security until 70, that means I'm going to go without my Social Security for the next 8 years. But that's a guaranteed payment I'm missing out on. So why not potentially replace that portion of your overall bucket number one, the guaranteed that you would have gotten from Social Security, with a single premium immediate annuity that pays for 8 years. It doesn't pay longer. It doesn't pay shorter. But it makes up the time from 62 to 70. And it's guaranteed that no matter what happens, it will pay out every month until you turn 70. And then at 70, you turn your Social Security on, and the annuity stops.
Let's use a concrete example here for people who are saying a single what?
Single premium immediate annuity. Basically, single premium means it's a one-time payment. Immediate annuity means the income starts immediately.
So what you do is you take a chunk of money, you give it to the insurance company, and the insurance company
promises to pay you a specific dollar amount every month for a stated period of time. Now, that stated period of time can be lots of different periods. Many of them are lifetime. They'll pay you this monthly income for as long as you live, regardless of how long you live. But you can also do what are known as term certain periods, which means that they will pay out for a specific time period, whether you live or die. And so in this case, they were using an 8-year term certain. It will pay 96 payments, because that's what 8 years in monthly terms are. And then whether you live or die at the end of the 96th payment, it stops.
So let's use the numbers that they used in this article here to make it even more concrete for people to understand.
They were basically mimicking what a standard age 60, not standard, but a reasonable age 62 Social Security benefit might look like. They were saying is about just shy of $2,500 a month. To provide for $2,500 a month in most states, not in 5 or 6 different states where they have higher taxes, and I'm not talking about income taxes. We'll get back to the taxes in a minute. You need to carve off about $200,000 of your portfolio, give it to the insurance company. They guarantee to give you just shy of $2,500 a month for 8 years, and then that's what your Social Security would have been anyway. So instead of getting your $2,500 a month from Social Security, you're getting your $2,500 a month from XYZ insurance company. I looked it up, and those were reasonable numbers, and they were with A+ rated companies. So it's a very doable number, and it'll last for 8 years. And then you turn on your Social Security at age 70. Now, for somebody whose Social Security was roughly $2,500 at 62, at 70, their Social Security is going to be like $4,550 or $4,600 a month going forward from there.
You mean because they waited until age 70?
Because they waited until 70.
So what they're doing then in this example is you're taking $200,000 of your own money in your portfolio, and you're going to give it to the insurance company, and they will, for 96 months, give you a check for roughly $2,500 a month in this particular example. That doesn't change. It's the same amount every month. Now, what is that total after? What is 96 payments of if you take $2,500 a month, and I don't have my calculator here, maybe you
240.
So you're getting, after 8 years, your $200,000 you received, in this example, $240,000.
Right. It comes out to about a little over 4.7% effective internal rate of return.
Okay.
Which is better than what you can get in T-bills, better than what you can get currently under today's world. So from a traditional bucket number one standpoint, it's giving you a little bit better rate of return than what you can get by a traditional bucket number one that has no risk. Now we're comparing risk-free to risk-free. You may be able to get a little bit better rate of return, but you have to accept risk to get that. And so risk-free to risk-free, you're looking at a little bit better rate of return. The difference is with the laddered T-bills and the other types, you have flexibility. With the structured single premium immediate annuity, it is a very structured payment.
Now I'm going to bring up something very quickly here that one of the advisors brought up in this online roundtable that we did, this discussion that we had, and I because I think other people may be asking the same thing, but the answer is actually kind of obvious. They're saying, well, wait a minute now, I got to take $200,000 to give it to the insurance company. They pay me back for 8 years. I get $240,000 back in this example, but my $200,000 is now gone. So I've got nothing. My $200,000. That's it. That is tapped out. But your bucket one is designed to be spent anyway, right?
Well, if you don't do it, where are you going to get the $2,400 a month from? $2,500 a month from? Where are you going to get it from? I mean, you're going to take it from your portfolio somehow. Are you going to take it from, and the $2,500 a month, it's actually, I think, $2,496, but we'll round up $2,500. That's guaranteed. No risk, no fluctuation. It will be there each and every month for 96 months. So where are you going to get that same income from going forward? Are you going to get it out of a portfolio that's volatile? It's a different game. You may be able to do better, or you may run out of money sooner, or you may have less money at the end. And so if you're doing it this way, you've already decided that I'm going to need to take $2,400, $2,500 a month from my portfolio. So how do I best structure my portfolio to give me that $2,500 a month for the next, in this case, 8 years? And this is not a bad way to do it. Where this will fall down is if interest rates were to move much higher in the next couple of years. Now, I don't know what the future holds, but I don't see interest rates skyrocketing in the next few years. I could be wrong. I might be wrong. But at today's writing, 4.7% internal rate of return is not a bad rate of return. In fact, everybody's talking about the Fed potentially lowering rates. Maybe. We'll see. We don't know. And so that may make this even a little bit better. But it does, from an emotional standpoint, mimic the Social Security payment fairly well, with the exception of it does not have a COLA to it. And so Social Security probably will have a slight COLA, cost of living adjustment, every year. So we don't have that. But other than that, we're looking at how do we give ourselves that emotional feeling that we can allow ourselves to defer taking Social Security until age 70. And this is a way to help it work. Now, do you have to use this?
It is potentially a way to make it work, yes.
But this is a bucket number one. What part of the discussion the other day on the advisor roundtable also was, do you use this for all of bucket number one? Well, it depends on who that person is. If it's a brand new, I was mentioning this, if it's a brand new retiree, I probably wouldn't do it for the entire bucket number one. I'd do it for a portion of it maybe. But brand new retirees don't even know what retirement looks like yet. They're still learning to be retired. They're still understanding what they are or are not going to spend. And sometimes, most of the time, they find out that they want to spend more than what they thought they were going to want to spend. It happens. Life happens. And so I don't want to structure it too much. But take somebody who's 75, 80 years old. They've been retired for a while. Their budgets, they've got a pretty good idea what their budget is. And except for very unusual issues where you always have to provide flexibility for that, they know what they're needing. So you're more likely for the older individual to put more into this type of more percentage of their need into this type than somebody who's on the younger side of things. Now, somebody's out there going, yeah, and the older you get, the more money you get from your payment. That is true on a life-oriented payout, but not on a term certain. Remember, a term certain in this case, lasted for 96 payments, whether you lived or died. The insurance company knows exactly that it's not going to be more, it's not going to be less. So whether you start one of these at 40 years old or you start one of these at 80 years old, the insurance company is going to make the same set of payments regardless. On the other hand, somebody who starts a life annuity, a payment for their life, at 60, the insurance company is thinking, yeah, we're going to make that payment for 30 years. And somebody who starts that at 80, says, we're only going to make that payment for 10 years. So obviously, I can pay them a lot more over a 10-year period of time, given the same amount of money up front, than I can to try to make it last for 30 years.
Actuarially speaking, now that person could live to be 105.
Who knows? And they could also die a couple days later. And so could that 60-year-old, for that matter.
Well, so let's to encapsulate what we're talking about here, we're talking about somebody who, let's say at age 62, had a Social Security benefit of $2,500 a month. In this situation, and they said, "Well, gee, my age 70 benefit would be what? What did you say it would be if it's
4,600?
All right, 4,600 at age 70. Those larger checks seem attractive to me, but I really kind of need this $2,500 a month right now. So what do I do? And the potential solution that we're talking about here is you take a chunk of money, and in this example, it would be say $200,000. At age 62, you hand it to the insurance company. The insurance company, in return for the next 8 years, guarantees a 96 months of payments, 8 years worth of payments at $2,500 a month, which at the end of the 8 years, that payment stops because that was the term. And you got a total of, you got all your $200,000 back originally, plus an extra $40,000 of rate of return. So this is what we're talking about. Now, the reason you would do this, Professor, what you're saying is that you feel better with a guaranteed rate of return. What's the big reason, before we talk about any potential downsides?
Well, if from an emotional investor side, the more money we have coming in that's guaranteed, if we have essential expenses that we have to make. We talk about lifetime income at different times, and we want to cover our basic essential living expenses with guaranteed income, Social Security, pensions, and if necessary, maybe a lifetime income annuity. But this case changes things because we're saying once my Social Security starts at age 45, I've got much, if not all, of my essential payments covered. I just need to make sure I have it for the next 8 years. So this gives you a guarantee of the first 8 years, because what happens when we know that we've got a check coming in that can't change on the same day every month going forward, we are less, and this is what I've experienced over 40 years and what papers are now being written about from a psychological standpoint, people tend to react less to negative market conditions when they've got their income covered. If they know that they've got their income coming in every month, regardless of what the market does, hey, the market went down 2% this last 2 days. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Wonder what caused that. Oh, okay, I'm going out golfing. It just doesn't bother them.
And that's even if they have money in the actual
And that's
stock
even if
market.
they have money in the market, because they know they don't need it today to spend to be able to cover their needs. They're more... or they're less anxious. They're less reactionary. They don't tend to react negatively to negative news and sell out at the wrong time, and then the market recovers and they're not in the market.
Now let me throw this at you too. We're talking about the psychological effects of having that guaranteed income. But when you put an 8-year bucket one together, aren't you, even if you don't use this so-called single premium immediate annuity, SPIA, S-P-I-A, even if you don't do that, aren't you still giving people income, cash flow from
Well, we're still bucketizing regardless,
sources?
yeah. So now it's just a matter of how are we bucketizing? What investments are we using in that bucket number one? If we wanted to have $2,500 a month, $496 or whatever the annuity was paying a month for the next 8 years, how should I structure that? Should I do a laddered bond portfolio, laddered T-bills, treasuries, laddered CDs? Should I try to use a fixed income portfolio that has a little bit of wiggle room but might get a better rate of return? Do I do a combination of the two? Do I ladder out fixed deferred annuities, 3-year, 5-year, because I can get 5% on those? But that means I also have to have a lower rate of return on the first 3 years. How much time and effort do I want to spend doing it? What do I want to invest in? And I'll come back to something I said I would defer till later, which is now states are different depending upon where you live. Different states, there's a handful of them, there's 7 of them across the U.S. that have what's known as a premium tax. And if you're in California or Nevada and you're using personal money to buy one of these things, well, the first thing that happens is the state takes 2.5% to 3% right off the top as a tax. So the insurance company, you gave them $100,000. The insurance company is saying, oh, well, we've only got 97 or 97.5 to work with. And then they have to pay a commission to the agent. So now they only have like $95,000 to work with. And so what can they then do to offer the individual? So in states like that, personal money doesn't work as well for these single premium immediate annuities. In most states, it's fine. You don't have that tax drag up front. But in California, it's 2.5% on the personal money side. It's only 0.5% on the IRA side. So, and in Nevada, I think it's 3% and 0%. So there are reasons to do these both either in your personal account because you get really good tax advantage with them, or in your IRA because you're going to be taking the money out of the IRA anyway because that's where the money is. So that's all part of the design. But that's also what your advisor needs to know about the different products that are available out there that can be used to satisfy the needs inside the buckets.
So
Isn't it fun?
This use of the single premium immediate annuity, and that's the one that we got off the article, so that's kind of why we're talking about this. But this is what it would be. This is something that years ago.
This is old school buckets. Because when we started dealing with buckets back in the early to mid 90s, much of bucket number one, interest rates were higher back in the early 90s, and we could get really good internal rates of return on these kinds of products and guarantee income for the next. We usually use 7 years, 6 and 7 years, not 8 years, but it's all a matter of what's available. And this article lended itself to 8 years. So we would do fixed single premium immediate annuities for bucket number one, and in many cases deferred annuities for bucket number two, because we could get 7 and 8% guarantees at that time. We can't get that now on the money. Now I will tell you that. And then the rest of the money was in bucket number three, was all in the stock market, diversified portfolio. Through the 90s, especially the late 90s, we were criticized for being too conservative. Mamby-pamby. Why would anybody use a 6 or 5% income stream or a 7% guaranteed 7-year contract when the markets conservatively did 20+% a year? That was the thinking in 96. There was a famous speech in 96 refuting that, but the individual who made that irrational, exuberant speech was wrong in 96. They were wrong in 97, wrong in 98, wrong in 99, because the markets went up 20+% or more every year, right up until they didn't. And we went from being way too conservative to, wow, that works really, really well. Overnight, it seemed like.
Yeah, and this is what happens. It's the nature of it's the cyclical nature of the economy and all that stuff, and you have to be able to react to it. But we don't have a lot of time left. But you mentioned this. If you do decide to go with either a portion or maybe all of your bucket one using this particular strategy with an insurance company product like a SPIA, SPIA. If interest rates do go up, there is a risk there, as you said, which you probably wouldn't have with laddered.
Your return is fixed.
Yeah.
Now, and if you ladder out all 7 years, your return is pretty fixed too, because you're not going to change them. No. It's only if you're playing the floating game where you keep everything short and then reinvest as you go along to get the 7 years out of it, that if interest rates go up, you can reinvest at a higher rate. But also if interest rates go down, you reinvest at a lower rate. So there's risk to that. And to be honest, a lot of people like the idea of getting a fixed, guaranteed check.
Even if interest rates change and they say, well, you probably could have gotten a better one if you...
Interest rates would have to go up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they would have to do it early in the tenure rather than late in the tenure to make a negative issue.
Yeah. So overall,
it's not a bad concept.
This idea is and I guess the reason, as you said, is because interest rates are higher than they were even 3 or 4 years ago, which makes them...
Right. They're coming back into vogue where they were way out of style for a long time, when interest rates were in the tank for so long. If you were to put in $100,000 or whatever the deposit was up front, over the payout period, you didn't even get your own money back. Forget the return. Because of the upfront costs and the fact that the insurance company couldn't make enough to even cover those upfront costs, you didn't even get your own money back. So we haven't talked about them in a long time because basically they stunk. They were horrible.
Yeah.
It's one thing to put your money in a mattress and earn nothing but pull out, and you never lose a dollar. You get, for every dollar you put in there, you get to take a dollar out. The SPIAs 5 years ago, I looked at a 10-year SPIA, and you put in 100, and over 10 years you got back about $97,000. Well, that kind of stinks.
Guaranteed loss in that.
Yeah,
case,
so it was not something that was talked about, and for a long time, because interest rates were in the tank. Now that we have interest rates back a little bit, insurance companies are able to do a little bit more with the money.
Can we just very quickly? There are people out there who say, "I've heard nothing but bad things about annuities and fees." Can you, in under 60 seconds, can you address that for the people who are not fans of things like annuities, insurance products?
Well, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater if you say every annuity is bad, because an annuity is a tool, and used correctly, it can work correctly, it work well. Used incorrectly, anything's going to stink. But the biggest issue is the fees are outrageous. Okay, if you're entering into a contract where you put in $200,000 and they're guaranteed to get back $240,000 over 8 years, if that is acceptable to you, what are the fees in it? Yeah, I already said there were tax fees potentially. There was a commission fee in it. But it didn't come out of your $200,000 directly. You put in $200,000 and you go back $240,000. It didn't come out of what you were getting back. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea that the fees are outrageous. Typically, when people talk about fees, they're talking about variable annuities, and in most cases, I'll agree with them on that.
You got to be careful with those.
I don't necessarily care for the fees on those unless there's some really good rider, bell and whistle that comes with the fee, and some of them don't.
Well, you were correct. They are tools, and if it's
used correctly, they can work great. Used incorrectly, sold incorrectly, which is the biggest problem out there, they're going to leave a very sour taste in your mouth.
That is true. If you need some more information on this kind of stuff and integrating your bucket strategy with Social Security, whether or not you use an insurance product like that, either way, your bucket strategy is integrated with your Social Security. Why?
It needs to be.
Yeah, because the foundation.
How do you know how much to take out of your portfolio unless you consider where your other incomes are coming from and when they're happening?
I love that blunt nature of you, Professor Plum. That's good. How the heck would you know, right? This is why it has to be, and this is why your advisor needs to understand how that works, which all the Lucia Capital Group advisors do under the watchful eye of Professor Rick Plum. If you want to talk to any of the Lucia Capital Group advisors about this kind of strategy, maybe, potentially for you, is it right? It's not right for everybody. Maybe right for you. Give them a call, 800-644-1150, 800-644-1150, and talk to any of the Lucia Capital Group advisors about this. You can find us online, luciacap.com, LUCIACAP.com. I don't have anything we don't have anything to download on this particular strategy because it's come back after 20-something years. But we do have other things you can download their bucket strategy guide. You can do that. Social Security guide. We've got estate planning and a few others. Just go to the search bar, type that in, and you'll be able to download it and take a look at it. Read it for free. It's all wonderful stuff. Don't forget to subscribe. This podcast, very important. Subscribe. Spotify, you can find us there. Many of you do. Most of you. Also Apple Podcasts. Find us there. Make sure that you download every single episode to your device, however you listen to it. Maybe you listen to it on your car radio. Maybe you put it on an 8-track tape.
Oh my!
I don't know. But
can you even do that?
I don't think so. But hey, it doesn't matter to us. You can even be in our audience. We don't have an audience, but we'll invite you over to Professor Plum's office and you can watch it live. Just make sure you listen to every episode and subscribe to this podcast because we really like to see those subscribers. We really do. You're like friends. We have some longtime listeners. I heard from somebody who's been listening to us since 2000. So
wow. That's pretty
25 years. Yeah. Started on the radio, then TV, and then podcast. So it's nice stuff. Professor, thank you so much. As always, this is a topic we don't cover a lot, but I thought it was worth talking about. And I think you hit it out of the park.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. For Professor Rick Plum, certified financial planner, professional, and accredited wealth management advisor, I'm your podcast host, Johnny Dean, managing your financial future. Thanks for listening. Talk to you again next week. The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. Content in this material is for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. No stock investment strategy or risk management technique can guarantee return or eliminate risk in all market environments. You should always seek counsel of the appropriate advisor prior to making any investment decision. All investments are subject to risk, including the loss of principal. This material is gathered from sources believed to be reliable. However, its accuracy cannot be guaranteed. Annuity protection guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. This material should not be considered a solicitation of an offer to sell or buy any specific security or offering. Investors should consult a financial professional to determine whether risks associated with an investment in the shares are compatible with their investment objectives. Bonds are subject to market and interest rate risk if sold prior to maturity. Bond values will decline as interest rates rise. Bonds are subject to availability, change in price, call features, and credit risk. Treasury securities are backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government but are subject to inflation risk. IRA withdrawals will be taxed at ordinary income rates. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may also be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Examples cited are hypothetical, are for illustrative purposes only, are not guaranteed and subject to potential federal and state law amendments. There is no guarantee that you will achieve the results discussed or illustrated. The information provided is based on current laws which are subject to change at any time. Lucia Capital Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Social Security rules can be complex. For more information about Social Security's benefits, visit the SSA website at ssa.gov or call 800-772-1213 to speak with an SSA representative. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. CDs are FDIC insured up to $250,000 per depositor per insured bank for each account ownership category. Before investing, carefully consider a variable annuity's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus which contains this and other information, call your financial advisor. Read the prospectus carefully before investing. Variable annuities with guarantees are available through optional riders at additional cost. Rick Plum is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor and member FINRA SIPC. Any other individual or company mentioned in this podcast are not affiliated with or endorsed by Lucia Capital Group or LPL Financial.